And breaking news this morning, it is day 7 of the war in Israel. More than 1,300 Israelis have died, along with 27 Americans have been killed since this war began last Saturday. The former leader of Hamas is now calling for a global day of jihad, which translates into a global day of rage. Police in cities across the country this morning, from New York City to Los Angeles, are stepping up security. In Washington, enhanced security is in place throughout the Capitol. The FBI is urging the public to, quote, remain vigilant. Christian Wayne, your reaction.
Well, it's just a reminder that jihadism is back, that political Islam is back, and that the Iranian regime, which this administration, the Biden administration, had thought had somehow tamed through this endless engagement in return for nothing, through this giving away of $6 billion in return for 5 hostages in a secret deal that is not really much of a secret. That money is on hold in Qatar. It doesn't remove the fact that the Biden administration unfroze hundreds of millions of dollars as almost its first act in coming into office, hundreds of millions of dollars for the Palestinians through the UN, even though they knew internally that was going to make it to Hamas. So, all of a sudden, amid this sort of series of foreign policy disasters in the Biden administration, we've made jihadism great again. They're calling for a day of rage against Israel. But, this is really directed at everyone in the West and everyone who believes in government that's not the unification of mosque and state, which is what Hamas, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Iranian government all want.
Yeah, well, we'll see how this day plays out. And it's also a question whether or not the Qataris are complicit here, supporting Hamas. But the U.S. and Qatar had a quiet agreement, we're told, to block Iran from accessing that $6 billion in money following the attacks. Fox News correspondent Jackie Heinrich pressed National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby on whether the U.S. will give the money to Iran after this. Watch.
Why is it that you won't come out and say that the U.S. does not intend to let this money go to Iran?
We've always had, since the beginning, we've always had the ability to provide oversight over the disbursement of these funds. We've always had the option, if we wanted it, to look at transactions and to make a call about whether we found it valid or not. That has not changed. And even now, as you and I are speaking, none of that money has been accessed by anybody. It's still all there.
Lee, there's real discrepancy here because of the support that this administration has given Iran just by appeasing Iran, by allowing oil on the black market, by allowing Iran to conduct its business. People put a $40 billion number on that appeasement. Congressmen across the board this week have talked about this appeasement from day one, not just the $6 billion.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's so many people who have to question in this moment what this administration has allowed to get us to this place. And, we can say that we're looking at this account, that they haven't accessed this account, but there's so much evidence that we have supported Iran and really made deals with Iran that have really led us to this whole place where we are today. And there's a real shift in sentiment. I think this is another example of how we're going to see Joe Biden's foreign policy views. Polling is already suggesting that they view it less favorably today than they did just a week ago. And I think you're going to see a lot more sympathy towards Israel than we have in quite some time.
Well, and the other thing, Ryan, which was pointed out on this program, I believe by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, when you know money is on the way, when you know you've got $6 billion in the offing, you're going to spend whatever you want right now. So, because $1 of the $6 billion wasn't spent doesn't mean that they're not expecting it and spending knowing that it's coming.
Yeah, and couple that with the fact that oil prices were over $90 a barrel 2 weeks ago, and we have eased oil sanctions on Iran here, and basically that's where that $30 to $40 billion comes into play. It's because they're producing about 3 million barrels a day of oil, whereas before the Trump administration put sanctions on, that was the last time they were producing that type of oil on a daily basis.
Right.